Few questions. So first, just again, thank you for taking the time to meet with us. We want to go into a bit of your background and how you're uniquely positioned to assess these kinds of plans. So, again, with your legal and administrative expertise at the county level, right? How would you go about assessing the feasibility and potential impact of Harris County adopting a more comprehensive community-driven plan, like the 12-step disaster preparedness plan that was sent over?
Yeah, well, as you know, Harris County is a huge organization, almost 18,000 employees, folks who work in every single space from, first responders to lawyers in my office, to community-based folks, to folks who work on transportation issues, to, of course, folks who work in disaster recovery. So, we have experts here at the county who are heavily engaged in flood mitigation projects, in thinking about what it means to build a resilient community. And so, yeah, it's leveraging those relationships, leveraging that knowledge. And one of the interesting things about the office I run, so we're the county's lawyers, and, there are 60 or so elected officials in the county, and I'm the lawyer for all of them, right? Then you got those 18,000 employees I told you about in my office, which is about 300 people. We're the lawyers for them as well. But one of the interesting things about us is the county is a decentralized form of government. So that means you got a bunch of individual departments that kind of run independent of each other. And there aren't many departments that touch every single department. So I would say you got HR, you got IT, and then you got the lawyers. So we have the ability to kind of build those strong relationships across the county, serve as a connector between different departments. And, it's bringing that expertise and those relationships and that administrative experience to the table and considering something like this.
Awesome. So, again, we've shared the disaster preparedness plan with some community leaders already, some various companies. And again, this is the part of this larger Redeem the Light campaign. And so we're getting some support, but again, we're still in the early phases, right? So in terms of your thoughts on the early backing of this, is there anything that would indicate to you, and again, a decentralized form of government, all of that, but is there anything about the early adoption that would signal to you that this is feasible, that this could be adopted, that this is something that you could move forward with in terms of supporting as well?
Look, it's always fantastic when you're getting a community buy-in for a community-driven plan. I think too often we have, government systems, a lot of times government that isn't even directly in the communities, trying to tell communities how best to prepare for disasters, how best to bounce back from disasters. And then you see instances like the flooding that just hit Central Texas, the flash flooding out there, which was absolutely devastating, where, all early indications are that more should have been done from government. So I think it's fantastic that you're getting community buy-in. And I think that's the type of strong coalition of support that you want in order to get a plan like that implemented. So it's definitely something that, folks in government will be looking at and evaluating a plan.
Thanks. I appreciate that. So I had another question around the pilot of the plan. So again, it's very detailed. That was one of the things that I noticed when Danny was sending it to me. And so, but with that, the plan starts with a pilot in Norwood Manor and aims to expand across Houston and ultimately the state. So it's an ambitious endeavor. But from your experience with large scale policy, how does this tiered rollout strengthen disaster preparedness? Would you consider something like this strengthening disaster preparedness for Harris County and the larger region?
Yeah, I think tiered rollouts are smart, right? You want to make sure that the car has gas in the tank before you take it across the entire state, right? So I think pilot programs are how government learns whether a program has the propensity to be successful or not, right? It's how you understand where it makes sense to scale and in what way it makes sense to scale and what the deficiencies are, and you address them early, and so that you're addressing them to the tunes of tens of thousands of dollars instead of millions of dollars, right? That is how government works. In fact, one of the things we had worked hard to roll out here in county government was a guaranteed basic income program. And in fact, it was going to be a pilot program, right? Because the idea was you start with a cohort of folks, you see how effective it is in changing outcomes and changing their ability to afford different things in their life. And then you roll it out on a more large scale. So I think a pilot program is a very smart way to approach understanding, like in practical terms, a disaster preparedness plan and understanding its effectiveness, what changes need to be made in order to make it more effective, and then how it makes sense to scale. So I think that's a smart, like thoughtful way to approach a plan.
No, thank you for that. And Danny, any thoughts on that as well?
To take myself off of mute. Well, when I created this plan, firsthand, it was just not only me, but it was a conglomeration of different minds that I went after while I was doing that. So yeah, I may be at the helm, but I'm nothing but after crew, right?
Yeah.
So when we created this plan, I just got tired of Houston getting hit over and over and over again. And after seeing firsthand reactive strategies costing us lives and costing us resources, I think Houston's expertise is able to do much better, and this plan captures that. If that makes sense. I was tired of this whole reaction thing. Being in the military, we were trained to be very proactive. We had to think of every scenario possible, right? Even like we have some aspects of the plan that are AR capable, right? And I approached Houston about this 1 week after Barrow, which makes a year ago, right? And so if you look at what happened near Austin, right? And all the disaster that came in between Barrow and in between what just happened in Austin with the flooding, if people had AR capabilities, if they knew where to get that messaging, if they knew how satellites work, if they knew all of that, we could probably have saved all those people. We could have made a dent in maintaining resources, saving lives, and making sure that people got the information that they need at real time, because that information can be updated real time.
Yeah, and I look, I think it's important for folks to be proactive at the community level, at the government level, because look, let's be honest, people who live in Houston, in the Houston area, across the Gulf Coast, there's a real trauma that is associated with these storms, right? When these storms come, people lose their property, they lose their dignity, and then sometimes they lose their lives, right? I have a fraternity brother who lost his girlfriend because she drowned in a car in the middle of a flood. Just incredibly tragic, right? And the financial impact cannot be understated. There are communities where, because folks are in the higher incomes and they tend to be more insured, overinsured, when something like this happens, they bounce back immediately, right? But then there are other communities where when a storm happens, it can set them back financially 5 to 10 years, right? If they're underinsured, if they're not insured, and they don't have the income to be able to make up for the losses. So I mean, it's devastating. So I agree 100% with Danny that, look, we got to be proactive on this. And I'm grateful that there are folks in the community who are like not just coming up with ideas, but like putting pen to paper and trying to be proactive about getting something done.
Thank you for that. And Danny spoke about this earlier, but to you, Christian, in terms of this, he mentioned AR earlier. So, there are AR early warning systems as part of this plan. Again, that could give real life saving alerts. There were mitigating plans that could be put in place that could address these storms and what happens in the aftermath of them. And so wanted to get your thoughts on how critical it is to prioritize technology that reaches every resident. And you touched on it earlier in terms of again, the disparities that some residents face in terms of that income inequality, where they live, your zip code. But in terms of prioritization of technology, something that is accessible, something that reaches every resident, could you speak more about that and how this is important to reach them and some of our most vulnerable citizens?
Yeah, I mean, look, technology is changing at this point monthly, right? Woo, let me get some water on.
Oh yeah, I'll definitely do that too. Stay hydrated.
Look, I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and
Oh.
there's not a week that comes by and we ain't had something jumping around the house.
Yeah.
I'll start over. Look, technology is changing very, very rapidly. The curve for the internet, for Google, was like this. The curve for AI is like this. I mean, there are programs where in 6 months it'll look different than it looks today, and you have to be able to leverage the latest technology. That's how you're gonna ensure that people are getting information as quickly as possible. It's how you're going to mitigate. It's how you're going to save lives. So I'm all for government and community leveraging technology that is as quickly as possible.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you for that. And make sure you get that handled. I have a 8-year-old, so I know that period of time, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, they're always bringing something home. That
Well, they're going to kill you, boy.
Yeah, so Danny, real quick, anything you'd like to add or follow up with in terms of the AR early warning systems, anything along those lines? And could you share how quickly the AR system could be deployed potentially in Houston neighborhoods, maybe?
Well, just to cover a couple of things with that, with the AR systems, meaning augmented reality systems. Those systems are instant. So we've done murals all over Houston. We're the first to create augmented reality capable murals in Houston and in Galveston, and also Brazil and Bahrain. But you could take the mural and you can have it be your alert system. Then you can also have calendars. You can also have things that seniors, normally carry with them, magnets on refrigerators, things like that. And we can make that the central message points. Their neighborhood flyers that they normally get, because Northwood Manor, which is the pilot for that, they are a stricken neighborhood. Their demographic is mostly seniors, and they are usually not heard, right? It was only recently, because of the popularity of the plan and the popularity that we received from some energy companies, that they started to just now get the attention that they've been craving for 30 or 40 years. So we're very proud of that from Solel International, but at the same time, we're making sure that we get that information over to them um, as quickly as possible. And again, we could do better. We always have each other as that resilient factor. We did have supporters who did give funding and time and effort. But we're at the stage now where we're ready to have the big boys and the big politicians and the big folks. We want them to help us to continue what it is that we're already doing. We're showing folks that it's done, it can be done, but we want to magnify what we're already doing, if that makes sense.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, now that I've caught my breath, let me just reiterate that look, leveraging the latest technology to save lives is how you have to do business, in government at the community level. And as I was saying, the curve for Google was like this. The curve for AI is like this, right? So that means that every 6 months, the technology in AI is substantially different than it was just 6 months before. There are systems now that did not exist a year ago, right? That's how quickly things are moving. So we have to be able to leverage every single technology to ensure that we're notifying people as quickly as possible and that we're notifying first responders as quickly as possible. Because we know, having grown up in Houston and the Gulf Coast, we know that in these storms, right? If you're saving 30 minutes, you're saving lives, right? So getting that information to folks as quickly as possible through the latest technology is going to be like instrumental in saving lives.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for that addition. I did want to go into, uh, as we move through the next phase, I did want to touch on a couple of things in terms of this larger community of investment possibility, right? So, we've already discussed how some companies and some community leaders are uh, getting engaged with the disaster preparedness plan. And so wanted to talk to you a bit more, Christian, about how you see Harris County playing a role in joining a potential coalition to secure funds for an expanded disaster protection plan, kind of creating a framework there. And what role could Harris County play as a partner in securing a $3 million or more in investment for this type of initiative?
Look, I think Harris County is, very obviously in the business of disaster recovery, of flood mitigation. If you don't believe me, all you got to do is turn on a meeting of Commissioners Court. It is a large topic of discussion at just about every single meeting. And I think that it's going to be important that Harris County is at the table for all disaster relief efforts, right? So that includes the efforts in every single neighborhood and including Northwood Manor. And so, I think folks need to continue to engage, continue to have the conversation, to do everything we can to protect people when these storms are coming. So I think that, Danny has obviously put a bunch of work into the plan along with his partners. And I think that, folks should be listening and should be continuing to have the conversations to move forward. So, I'm grateful that I had the opportunity to put eyes on it and to take a look at what he had been working on. Similar to you, William, I saw that it was greatly detailed.
Yes.
And, I thought I'd be able to dig in 30 minutes, but it turns out that was not the case. I had to kind of, have a seat and really put eyes on it. But look, it is imperative that our community be at the table when we're talking about the important work of disaster recovery, disaster mitigation, disaster relief. And so, I'm grateful that folks are rolling up their sleeves and doing the work. And, I think that all levels of government should be willing to partner with folks who are willing to put in the work for their communities.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for that. And Danny, anything you'd like to add there? What would that unlock? Like, what would the $3 million or more investment unlock for Solel International for the Redeem the Light campaign?
Community leaders and companies have already been investing, in this particular plan. And because they see real life-saving impacts, for me, it's about action, right? And just like how Mr. Menifee just spoke, about community action and being a part of something that matters, right? And supporting locals who know their city, know their surroundings, right? What this would do is if we're able to get in front of those that, which we have, but the more the merrier, right? And so if we're able to get in front of those that can help us make an impact, a wider impact than we're already making. We can employ people to save us. We can continue to work with some of the NASA employees I've been working with, because I used to work at NASA. So if you want to know why I have access to all of these different fields, it's because I've been in all of them. So I used to work at NASA. I was in the service, right? I was, we produced a nonprofit. We've been doing it for about 7 years. We've been in AR and tech for a very long time. So, and we've dealt with satellite images. I used to put together satellites when I was in the military. I used to hand do that, right? So, but another thing that we sort of deal with in the community, sometimes, and I'll just say this and I'll be brief. Sometimes when you have disasters, that's when people get together. But outside of that, you have this perception, right? I look very young, right? I don't look 42, but I look very young. But people don't expect that, right? Oh, you've been in all of this stuff, right? But what I was trained to do in the military is I was never trained to shortchange the person that was in front of me, right? Because that person can be there to save your life. And so, with that said, I think Houston is now doing a better job on getting over perception and working with what's actually in the mind. I mean, my God, Christian Menifee is on the call with us, right? And so to have a person who deals with what really who's everybody's boss, right? At that particular level in his field, that's very impressive. He's the first African American to do just that. I'm not just trying to toot your horn, but I'm just saying in the position that you're in right now, you made history. And so to have you here and to have you here listening to us and helping us all to come to a conclusion for disaster preparedness. Look, I'm an artist. I'm a military man. I'm this and that. But going into the field of disaster preparedness, I had to use other skill sets that I had to bring to the table. We're all doing that. We're all adapting here. And so you're helping us to adapt.
Yeah,
So this is pretty much
how you put it, Danny, was so beautiful in that that is what disasters do to people, is they make people have to step outside of their box, right? And come together for the betterment of community, right? Like, we've all seen too much. We've all seen the images. We've seen the flooding in real life. We've seen the damages done to neighbors. We've all had friends who have been impacted, family members who have been impacted, and it changes something in you, right? And so, whether you're a lawyer or an artist or got the best background in town, it makes you want to get in the game and do something about it to protect your communities. So, look, hats off to you, Danny. Hats off to y'all for the work that you're doing and trying to really move things forward in an actionable way that's gonna save lives, man. So yeah, I'm grateful for it. Danny, I gotta jump off. But I appreciate y'all for the opportunity to be on. And William, it was great to meet you, man.
Nice meeting you too.
Yeah, real pleasure, man. You got a gem on your hand with Danny, so stay close to him, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you again for your time.
Of course, man. All right, you have a blessed one.
All right, you too.